Here we are looking at the 30/30 list, being the top 30 momentum companies on the ASX and the top 30 launchpad stocks. That's where they show up before they become those momentum leaders that lead the market higher. And we're doing this as we're coming into the end of the reporting season in the US and almost about to kick off the Australian reporting season, and the ASX is at all-time highs right now as we record. This list of top 30 momentum companies is shared with Gary on a Thursday at the same time that members get it, and they get to put in their requests so they can ask which charts we can look at and dissect in today's recording. Gary, you've also got something that you're going to talk to us about and expand on, because we've got a lot of questions about it, is being the deliberate practice and how to apply that to becoming a better trader, specifically a momentum trader. So lots to cover, and we say good morning, Gary Gulliver from Novus Captial. How are you?
Yeah, good, Chris.
So a fair bit happening in today's recording, and the momentum leaders, look, we've got the market that has pushed up to its highs. Some of the banks haven't actually carried through with those highs, so a bit of a changing in the guard like you've been talking about. What's caught your eye on these top 30 momentum leaders this week?
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of medical companies in there. That's sort of on your sector breakdown there. There's sort of quite a few medical device companies in there. I think IMR might have been in the one we talked about previously there. Stock that I did like there previously. But it's quite a few smaller sort of medicals in there as well, which I thought was interesting. Obviously, gold's been still pretty robust. I think gold's sort of more maybe tapered off a little bit. It's still in the list, but down a bit lower. But yeah, but we have seen some of those smaller, definitely seeing some of the smaller names starting to make a move here. So yeah, because and I guess interesting thing there is, Chris, too, if we do get a rate cut here in February, like which looks like a 90 percentile now, that should be pretty good for small caps as well. So maybe the small cap run could last a bit longer here, because no doubt some of those larger caps are fully priced, particularly the financials and the growth stairs. I think materials are still pretty. That's probably where I've been looking the most. I think there's some value there, but again, the smaller names, particularly in that sort of healthcare, medical area, seem to be a few opportunities in there as well.
Well, I think you're spot on. Looking at the top 10 themes in there's medical scanning and research conducting, there's diagnostic equipment, hospital suppliers, radiology and imaging, biotechnology, specifically the devices side of biotech things. And then quite generic, but healthcare comes in at 11th with 30 constituents in the top 200. So I think you're spot on. It's more than about half of the top 10 themes are healthcare related.
Yeah.
So that's what you picked up. So on the charts and the individual companies, you got 3DP. Is that one that's caught your attention?
Yeah, number 3 on the list there. Look, I mean, it did have that impulsive break there early in the year, and then if you look at that congestion there, what's that sort of July through to December there? So you've almost gone sort of 5 or 6 months before it's kicked out again. So we know that these, because that's 100% move here. So we know our 100% club will go through a congestion phase and then start to come out here. So this one's come back a little deeper there. I like them to stay in the top half rather than come back as much as this, but it did break above the 50 here. Did have a nice little congestion, break above and swing high there. So you started to see a bit of a change of character there. Obviously this day here, obviously was a big gap up, but I think when they've had that, from what I've seen here, the analysis of sort of some of those model book stocks, and is that you do get that 100% or 200% or 400% move in those names. You get a congestion period, and then you get another leg there. So we should be alert. Any stock that's gone up 100% in the last year or two, we should be watching those regardless. So because then they'll go through a congestion phase. But this can be, say, 3, or this can be like 1 month, but oftentimes it might be, say, 3 to 8 months, something there, before it comes out again. So that's the list. Those are the sort of stocks we're looking at there. This has had a nice move here now, some pretty heavy volume there. Probably what I sort of see. We've started to pull off here, but had the 1 day so far, but Now it just goes on the watch list and to see if it can congestion tighten up. VTX, nice little, kind of a smaller name here. This is sort of, again, we got, did have a nice little cup and handle on here, Chris. Did come out of here this day. Didn't sort of close at a new high there, but did make the handle there. And it has sort of moved on there. So, still pretty robust volumes here. That's still a pretty healthy, pretty good sign there. So, so you saw a few days down here, not too much selling there, and a couple of days of good volume there. So, but yeah, nice little come and handle there on that one. ETX, CAY was one that I might have looked at this one previously there, a little too small here, but still ticking along. OPT, again, another, this is a bit still got another sort of cup in here and a pretty tight handle. A couple of these ones are on the lower side, Chris, so oftentimes I like to see them a bit higher up there, but you can get the lower handles there. I think, as we sort of pointed out previously there, like Bulkowski, was sort of think there's only a small difference. I think they weren't quite as strong or something, but it's still a pretty solid outcome there, I think, from the stats from memory.
Yeah, where the handle shows up, it's still a great setup. It's just slight favouring as to being higher in the handle.
Yeah. This one was quite good there because even though it was a bit of a low cup, the handle did sit on top of the previous high as well. So that would be, from a trend point of view, that's pretty constructive as well. And you just look at that volume, when you sort of see a nice move there and then you see a nice congestion phase, there's no selling there. And that's a good sign there. We're seeing good volume come out of here. So that's pretty robust there. So, DUB was another small one that's had a bit of a move, Chris. It's sort of hard, these really, really tiny ones there. So, but when there's a lot of, the problem you've got with some of these ones that are really far behind here is that you got a lot of losers who are just
waiting to sell.
Yeah, waiting to sell any strength there. So that's, you get some good setups in here. We saw a bit of a VCP tighten up in here. And look quite good, even like this, like another little VCP in here. But we just know that we're sort of going to face some selling here eventually. So that's the risk with those sort of ones that have had that sort of big sell down previously. SM1, not too much, look, I did a little congestion there, a bit impulsive, then corrective there, but bit of a tough one to trade there. Really didn't give you much opportunity. Even though I did sort of show that impulsive and then corrective sort of setup. Paradigm here, I'm only going to talk about it because I know we're going to get a question on it. But yeah, I mean, look, to be honest, I wouldn't have touched this personally. Let's raise money. It's got a lot of losers there, but it did set up a VCP in here, Chris, as well. So again, if I was just trading my rules, I would have this coming through the top here, breaking 48 cents there would have been a nice little B-wave trigger there. So the whole thing did tighten up here. And the volume was definitely the volume did coil up a bit here as well. So yeah, it's broken out here and gone for a bit of a run here. So yeah, maybe there's some hope there. The risk with this one is it's still got a lot of sellers here, a lot of losers ahead. So the good thing is that it has raised a lot of money down here at the low. So there's a lot of new money come in at those levels. So maybe that can give it a little bit of upside potential here. But yeah, just got to be careful. Still got a lot of selling in front of it. ICC was a strong name there, but that's sort of gone sideways there. It did call up there it did get a little VCP and did break that little B wave. And it hasn't gone to a new high there, but it looks so far it's staying pretty tight here. Again, it's pulled back here under the high here, but still no real aggressive selling here, Chris. So still looks okay. What have we got there? AZY. This one's a little small here, but definitely seen some chunky volume here. That's big volume there. I think is it Lion Resources? Lion are on the register as well here, so it's got a pretty big name joined the register recently, so that's probably a good sign as well. So a bit small for me, but these volumes are pretty solid here. If we got a little handle here underneath the high there, that'd be a nice setup there, but too small for me personally. MYG, this is again a tough one there. I did see this stock here. It was just sort of hard to trade here. So
Even though he's over the 50-cent hurdle, that chart's just patchy, sporadic volume apart from the last week or two.
Yeah, the weakness that was showing a bit more because it sort of had that nice move there, had the overbalance here. So that when a trend tips over like that, you then you're either going to go through a corrective phase or you're going to go through you're going to get a correction in price or a correction in time, as McLaren used to say. So did go back up to the high there, but then it's come back here and the whole thing has tightened up here. So did use up a lot of time there. So sometimes scanning out to your weekly, it paints that a bit better picture than the daily here, because the daily is a bit messy here. But that weekly does sort of show that that's a stronger trend there. That's had a pretty good move. That's kind of impulsively corrective. So this leaves it in a pretty good position there. So I'm trying to think. There was some news out on this one here. I can't remember what it was now, but it was pretty good news as well. So just definitely want to keep an eye on here because it seems to be getting some more positive news sort of rolling through. So I think this was it was an update on earnings groups. I think they paid a special dividend just because they
a special dividend declared on the 28th.
Yeah, so I think the numbers they reported pretty well. So it just shows the company's in a pretty strong position. It's so almost surprised themselves and had to pay more earnings out. So that's the sort of company you want. So that's pretty much all we got in there. Yeah. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on there. Maybe another consolidation, but traveling pretty well in MYG.
Substantial cash supplies exceeding operational requirements. The board has approved a fully franked special dividend of 5.3 cents. Not bad for a 70-odd cent share.
Yeah.
AC1 though. ATI? Is it?
That was MYG. That's
That was MYG, yes. But,
yeah. So definitely a company to, I have circled that on the list. That's one to go to look there. Because if you've sort of got, I don't know if you should have watch lists, so I've got my 100 club there stocks that have had that 100% jump. I've got, a VCP list, the sort of stocks that I think of sort of that are tightening up and that sort of had that big move and then the price action starting to consolidate up. And then I've sort of got a fundamental list as well. So I think my stocks got really strong earnings, a bit like the Can Slim sort of stuff. Company that's really starting to grow. So potentially having a strong revenue line, maybe getting close to break even, as we talk about those sort of companies, and the companies that are just their earnings seem to be growing pretty quickly as well. I've sort of got a fundamental list. So I just got a few different watch lists there to sort of keep an eye on those companies there.
Because I should mention that those lists that you're talking about using the SEPA methodology that Mark Minervini uses, we share that with members each week. Here's a list of the top 15 momentum companies that meet that criteria, and then also the top 15 launchpad. So it's just one way to stay across, like you're saying, that you want to be watching those companies. They've got surplus cash.
Yeah.
You're going to need out. That's generally good for the share price.
Yeah, this one here is interesting, kind of too, that El Monte, which is in that sort of got like tungsten sort of area. So I think it's got a fairly decent sort of high quality reserve there. So kind of like another sort of rare metal type there. But this is, it's a pretty patchy sort of chart there, but has just sort of, had a bit of volume pop out of the range there. Again, a bit tight here, bit not the most liquid, but has been moving. But you're starting to see this thing get a bit of traction here now and get some volume in there. So, it might start to get a bit more liquid there. So I hope that looks like a pretty good chart. Triple T. I just thought, maybe this one's sort of gone back up to retest the high here. The volume is not bad here on this last rally up into the high. So I just circled here, little, potential cup and handle. So we want to see this maybe coil up here, congest. So I mean, so far we've had 2 days down here, a couple of days, another down day. So not much volume so far. So that's got the ingredients of a potential handle setting up here. You probably want to use up a bit of time here, but yeah, sometimes these sort of things you just need to give a bit of time here. So I thought that looked interesting there, just because it's has been trending up for quite a while. Volume profile's pretty decent there. FBR, sort of the old fast brick, now FBR limited. So yeah, it's interesting one there. There's plenty of shares on issue. That's probably the only negative there. Does have a lot of losers ahead of this one there. But those sort of robotic,
Bricklaying.
Yeah, building a house. It's an interesting model there. It's got some interesting shareholders on that list as well. So yeah, it's definitely want to keep an eye on here. Actually, I think this one's got potential here longer term, but it's pretty small here. It's too small for me, but I am watching it out of curiosity. It's been a company I've watched for quite a while. That is, let me talk about Premium there, but Premium's had a nice little run there, but that's impulsive, corrective, which is sideways, impulsive, corrective, which is sideways, impulsive. Slightly deeper here, but then we've broken here. If you're just waiting for these corrective patterns, just to break through the like the last little swing, just waiting for them to have the congestion and break the little B wave there. Wait for the congestion and break out. Wait for the congestion, little breakout on the little mark.
At the same time, in the breakouts, you want the higher volume, the congestion, the lower volume. Is that PPS looks like a pretty good example of that, is it?
Yeah, I mean, you look at that. Look at that strong volume there, the whole way up here. Then the volume, even though it's had a nice pullback, there's not much selling going on there, Chris, as well. So nice and it does sort of tighten up here. Look, you might get a little bit negative after it's broken the 50 here, but it does eventually break a little B wave. So if we just wait for that little B wave break here, that'll sort of keep it out of trouble, because sometimes these congestions can last longer than you think. So just waiting for a little bit of strength there. That's our quarter
ventilators.
Yeah.
So the next is a launch pad, and that's where quite often we'll see companies that are up and coming building the foundations before they take off. So exactly what you're talking about, that consolidation that you had with PPS, quite often throughout those periods of those consolidations, contractions in time, corrections in time, I should say, or contractions within the volatility, quite often they'll end up showing up in the launch pad. And something that you'd noted over the years is that if you see a cluster of similar themed companies, so whether it's tungsten or financial services, platforms, banks, or gold miners, quite often 2 to 6 weeks later, you'll see a whole lot of those companies become momentum leaders. And looking at this week's Launchpad list, we'd noticed momentum. You talked about healthcare. The standouts are diversified financial capital markets, which Premium is one of those, in that space. UK exposure, New Zealand dollar earners. But at the top of the list, not as many constituents, but we've got healthcare once again, direct patient services. It's also internet advertising. But the rest of them are a bit thinly spread, with not too many constituents within each highly ranking group. So really we want to see a cluster of 6, more like 8. But if we can see 4 to 6 within the top 30, that's even better. So did anything stand out to you in this week's list?
No, as you were sort of saying that, Chris, the sector there, I was just quickly looked up on my board and I was realised, so out of my 5 trades, 4 of those trades there, one of the rules is that there must be sector strength. And basically avoid weak sectors. So if we're not taking trades in strong sectors, the odds are against us. So 80% of my trade ratio there, in terms of actually getting the trade on, it has to meet that criteria. So that's as you said there, I thought, I'm pretty sure that's in most of mine, but yeah, it's actually in 4 out of my 5 playbook list. But I mean, I think again, there's quite a few smalls in that list as well, Chris.
Yeah.
I didn't sort of see too many sectors sort of stand out there. Yeah, I don't know. Anything that jumps out to you on that list?
Anything that jumped out? Not necessarily on the list. And unfortunately, it's the overview of the themes, just like you said. You can have a great setup, but if you're not getting the leading setup in a strong theme, then it's almost like it's not worth taking the risk because you're not going to have that follow through. And quite often we'll find that when we're seeing the strength in the launchpad and they show up, we've noticed that that's actually when institutions and fund managers start accumulating their book. And it's like big funds leave footprints. They can't hide the volume. And what we've found is that the launchpad, you can often see that. So if it's showing up at the launchpad and we see a volume spike without, like you said, like a Wyckoff anomaly, big volume, not a big movement. And then we also see a concentration of a fair few of those in the launchpad at the same time. That's sort of a canary in the coal mine that, hang on a second, we should really pay attention here. And what that does is that gives us support. There's sort of that buying support behind you and I buying as individual momentum traders. And it puts a bit of a floor behind the price. And if you just only have that little bit of excess pressure pushing it up, it can actually push the share price in significant directions. So maybe just pull out a couple of the top 5 or so if you want, just to sort of look at some charts and see if there are compressions and coils in there that work for you. Is there any in there that are worth running through?
Yeah, well, I think this first one's sort of interesting there because you do have that. This is tightening up here a little bit. You've had this, relative had some bigger pullbacks in here, but just last in the chart is obviously we pull back here, pull back again. Yeah, so there is a little bit of a VCP setting up in here. So I did notice this one there. I think breaking above this 22nd of January high there was sort of like thought, okay, that might be a little VCP sort of set up there, but the reality was this is still a pretty strong downtrend here. It hasn't actually, even though it's gone above the 50 on that break, Chris, it's still just lower high after lower high after lower high. It hasn't got any highs there as well. And but look at the longer term time frame as well. It's a little weak here. It's a little flat here, the sort of setup there. So I did see this sort of stocky, but I didn't take this setup there just because the trend was down there. Whereas we just sort of showed you that PPS. This has been trending up for a while here now. Wow, I only broke the 50 once in there, but there's this moving up corrective, whereas the ELS there, it's sort of so far it's been the other way there. It sort of hasn't really been moving up too freely there. So that's why sometimes you might see this little VCP in there and set up there, but you'll look at the larger, look at where you are on the trend there. So sometimes looking at that longer term scale there, and you're not seeing, apart from that little bit of volume there, I haven't seen too much heavy volume through here so far. So it's one I'm watching there, but I need to see a bit more. I need to see a new high there before I reconsider that one. So I thought that was sort of finishing there. I think, what have we got there? I mean, the DVP was another one there. Seemed to be tightening up there, but then it's gotten pretty erratic in the last week or two. So it's gotten a bit loose. So, Kalamagi will tell us that, loose is for losers and tight is for winners. We really want to be looking at these sort of tighter setups there. So I know it's popped up here, but yeah, it's got a bit erratic there. It just makes it risky to trade. But, kind of where do you put your stop in?
You still got a few to work through. So.
Yeah. That M7T there was just, again, it's broken a swing high, so possible change of character there, but it's still pretty messy here. So I think it's too early to be looking at this one. I just want to just keep an eye on it. McMahon was one that I think, so far it has been pretty robust there. So the longer term trend is pretty solid here. So it's a pretty strong trend here, having a bit of a breather at the moment.
And that's still a compression within the top half of that range, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So it hasn't really come off too much there. It's just come back down to So I know sometimes Morales and Couch like to see that little undercut of that, so have a little ABC come back and undercut there and then build from there. So this is still in a pretty strong position here. So, there's definitely one that can't be ruled out there. That's still in a strong position there. Definitely showing strength overall, not showing too much weakness on the pullback. Thought this one was kind of interesting. Chris, even though it's had a good run here, had a pretty big move. I think it's gone up more than 100%, but it's had a pretty deep pullback as well. But it has been sort of building again. Just good. No, I didn't quite break our little B wave the other day, but got close there yesterday. But yeah, maybe just one to have a closer look at there.
Well, that's just one actually we had a question on was that compression there. So is it creating a VCP sort of from that late December high? It's sort of come down one contraction. What's that late October? Sort of come down, and then December had another contraction. Where it's compressing and being really tight in the last couple of weeks, would you cheat on that, or you'd wait for the confirmation of the B wave break? What would you be looking for a comfortable entry now that it is clearly over the 50-day?
Yeah, no, like I don't cheat anymore. Just because I know every time I try and cheat there, it ends up sort of fading. It doesn't, it's not. There's a reason why if any of those guys, the pros, don't cheat, because once the trigger's gone, then that's the point where everyone comes in. If it doesn't break it, and no one comes smash kick influx. Yes. So you want to sort of see them break those levels there. So yeah, it still looks okay here. It is nice and tight. It is tightening up here. That's the interesting thing. There's some okay volume through here, some okay volume as well. So it's had a few volume spikes. I know Minervini likes to sort of see those runs and the volume spikes. That sort of shows potentially sort of not so much the 20 or 10 or 30 cent names, but the bigger companies, it does show maybe institutions are maybe starting to come into their stocks. If you get those run-ups and the volume spikes, it sort of shows that sort of bigger style volume there. So look, this one looks okay here. Just a bit volatile when you look at that weekly setup, Chris, as well. It's sort of been up, come back very deep, had a spike here and then come back again. So look at, does have the ability to kick, maybe kick on there. But it's, I thought this one looked interesting here just because it's sort of at a key level. But yeah, that was a bigger name. I on my list of watching now, I prefer to sort of see it a bit higher up. But
and just the last thing on the moving averages there, we've got the 10, the 20, and the 50. They're all kind of weaving and crossing over each other. So does that compression help give you a bit of comfort, maybe when the share price is higher, more so, but is that something you look for?
Yeah, no, it is. We like to sort of see it, but the convergence there and the tightening up as well. So yeah, we'll just see price. Price tightens up for quite a while there. We know we're potentially going to break out there. So we saw, I think, maybe those moving averages all come together, before the last breakout. So it doesn't always work out. I think they're all converging down here, but sometimes. But you just want to, if you see a period of tightening up here, but it's too small for me, but definitely one that I did circle it and have a look at the company. So I thought it's kind of interesting chart. I think GTK was again another little VCP forming there. Chris has pulled back, gone below the 50. Did break a little B wave a couple of days ago, but the volume's been a bit light here. So look, the trend is still pretty strong here. This is sort of one of our big leads that still hasn't given up, Chris. If you look at that weekly chart there, it's just really is set on top of the previous high. So it still leaves it in a really good position. So, so we know these strongest names here, they can go a bit further than you think here. So this isn't, this is, again, it's, even though it's gone below the 50 here, but we can see here the last few pullbacks have all gone below the 50. So what's been more important is to wait for that congestion there, wait for the first little high low here. So this is one that I don't mind the look of there. And so technically it all looks long in the tooth there. It looks like it's extended there, but we know these are the ones that, we've got to go back and look at the history there. They keep going here. So,
Nice.
what else we got there? I think it was AMI. This is a bit of a VCP in there as well. Chris has had a similar code to the last one there, but again, it's had a nice little run there, and the whole thing's tightening up here. What I like is that look through that period there, that congestion there wasn't too much selling going on. It's actually held up pretty well. So we're starting to see a bit of volume come in as well. So, okay, that's not a bad, too small for me personally, but did like to look at that. It's sort of like, we've seen those strong rallies, have a bit of a pullback, the whole thing start to tighten up here. So we are seeing some heavier volume spikes through here and been pretty light on this pullback here. So I thought that looked okay for a small in there. AMI, so AFG, it's one bit of a VCP, had a bit of a break in here. So this is kind of, it's a larger name here, Chris. So I've actually been noticing the VCPs actually been coming through on a lot of the big caps here. So saw a pullback here, pullback there, tighten up again, and then we have broken through here. So it's gone through 157 here, and I had a nicer move. I mean, I think I saw Light Center did a little VCP in here, broke through the top. Trying Clinical Labs did a nice tight VCP, went through the top here. Even Sonic, getting a little bit of VCP in here, tightened up here, popped through here. I think even Harvey Norman, which is, getting another VCP here. The whole thing's tightened up here. Once it's popped through little B waves, so even these big caps are actually making these little VCPs and actually kicking on here. So some good it's a reasonable trading environment here for the technicals there, looking at those sort of setups there. So I thought that looked pretty good. EBO was another VCP as well, sort of had that sort of strength, got a little bit loose in there, but then it sort of did sort of tighten up in here, sort of had our little three-wave pullback there, had a little bit of a B wave in there. And again, once we've broken those B waves there, it's just taken off here. So it's the big name here. So definitely, I don't know, people tend to be looking at these VCPs and trading the big caps, the whole tightening and stuff, and then coming through. So this is definitely some good setups there. PLG this was a good little VCP as well, Chris. Sort of did have that big jump up on volume there and pulled back the whole thing in here just to see how the volume dried up right in here. And then we're just looking to sort of come, looking to break, this day here. We've had okay volume. We've gone through the high there. That's a good little trigger day. So it's pulled back, had a couple of down days, gone again. Hasn't really ripped, but okay setup as well. So
just noticed on that, actually that most recent strong green candle, so 5 sessions ago, that was actually the first time it's crossed the 200-day moving average since the episodic pivot, where it jumps up.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd note on your episodic pivot, that would probably exceed it, wouldn't it? Because it's 17% the threshold where you let it go.
Yeah.
And so late October there, massive volume, huge gap up. It runs. And now it's trawled out a bit more of a bottom. So it's over the 10, it's over the 20, it's over the 50, and it's just crossed over the 200-day moving average. How important is that kind of sitting on top of those moving averages to give you confidence that, okay, well, I might actually look at a setup here if it starts conforming to one of my patterns that I look for?
Yeah, that sort of reminds me of, I think it was 4DX was one that had the same thing, had the episodic pivot and then congest back here. So this thing can do that. So it's together, like almost jump up too much. So like that, which one was it? Oh, TLG. So yeah, they sort of, so they jump up there. So the one observation I will make is from those EPs that jump up too much and have that big day, is that I've even seen this looking at the model books in the US, like looking at some of the US model books, is to find that, if they go too hard, they open up more than that 14%, which they refer to as a potential chicken, because it sort of could, will end up failing.
Back on the ground.
Yeah, and end up sort of falling back to ground. But they do tend to have that A, B, C. If you look for that pullback, like a three-way pullback. So even trying to think whether it was Meta or Google, it was one of the bigger names there, had an EP there pretty early. But then it had a three-way pullback and then it built again. That was sort of like, so if you do notice those EPs that like some good news, it's just market's just gotten too far ahead of itself there, and it comes off here. But that after that ABC, that's worth looking at the stock there. So you've got good catalysts, so good news to the market, obviously likes that news. You just got a bit carried away, drifts back here, then it could potentially sort of go again. So it's just an observation that I was seeing. Some of those failed EPs are worth revisiting, ones that had a three-way pullback there. That's I think the only other one that I saw there, Chris, was again, I noticed this is tightened up here. So this it's a bit like that GTK. This has been running for quite a while. Had a nice run here, so it does seem a bit. Look at the 2-year trend; it's had a pretty nice move here. So it's been running up for quite a while. So most people think, oh, it's run too far, it's too late. But when they tighten up again, they just wait for this to break out here. I mean, this gave it was pretty late in the day yesterday when he sort of triggered there. So, you could have got plenty of this at 302 or 301 here, without too much problem there. And then you got a pretty tight stop in here. So whether you just stop in at 287 under the high, or maybe you had some a little tighter here, but good risk reward trade in there.
That's probably a good example of the list that you were talking about, of keeping a list of whether it's 100% club, those with strong fundamentals. But this one's also meeting that coil criteria, the compression of the moving averages. Sort of 3 days ago, the moving averages were on themselves, just like, well, the 10 and the 20 were in late September in that last coil.
Yeah, kind of reminded me of that SKS, how that really tightened up in here as well and come out. You just don't know how far these things are going to go here, So, so look, they look extended there. I mean, that GTK, that looks extended as well, but who's to say? I mean, probably look extended here, So, we just don't know how far these things are going to run here sometimes. So, but waiting for those, tight consolidate is maybe X.
But you've covered the ones that were taken note of and requested.
Yeah.
And before you jump into your deliberate practice and how to apply that for trading, I do recall in the last week we're having conversation off air, and you were saying, well, how do we get more support for the channel? Can we ask people to like it or comment and interact below and tell us what they do like and what they'd like to see more of? So before you delve into that, I'll take the opportunity to say, yes, please like the video. That definitely supports the channel and gets it out there. And comment to let us know what you do like, whether you are liking these things that Gary's delving into, as to what's helped him become a better trader and how he applied that deliberate practice. So, how did you apply that deliberate practice, Gary?
I just think about this. Obviously, it's all great to talk about, that deliberate practice, which is obviously what, in terms of sort of trying to, get that peak performance there. And, it's not just about trading more often. And do your paper trade, do you follow charts? I mean, it's just that there's there's lots of things you could do which may not be deliberate practice as well. So you kind of really need to. It's just sort of something where you're gonna have to sort of work on kind of improving and maybe get you out of your comfort zone, as they often say. And it's a bit of a change in mindset too, a lot of the time as well. So two things I'm probably going to suggest here is actually reviewing your trades that you take each week. So the trades you're in, so you need to review them ongoing. So have your sort of, whether you get a diary or you get a trade review sheet like yourself there, but have some process there for actually constantly reviewing them as well. So you got to review them to get them get in them. And then I think the first 3 days are kind of critical as well. So those first 3 days, I think you want to be having a close look at your trade, make sure that you've, have you, follow your rules, have you scaled in the right way, have you put your stops in the right levels, and have you followed the process you've sort of got yourself. So just kind of reviewing that. And then obviously you do need to look at, when you're reviewing, because oftentimes even me with my digital library, I've got lots of VCPs in my digital library, but only maybe half or a quarter of them do I go back and look like a month later, see where they've gone. Because if we're not doing that, then we don't know what's possible from those setups as well. And, if one of your rules is to sort of maybe sell some to heat like pros, and then the other rule is to follow a moving average and let it run until you get stopped out like the pros, then you don't know what's possible. So if you're not reviewing what's possible, then you don't know what's possible mentally from a mindset point of view. So you need to be able to sort of look at your trades a month down the track and actually review them there, because that's the only way you're going to learn something new. If you're just doing a 2 or 3 day review only on the entry, follow my rule, but the path you took after that, you may not have actually, maximize your potential there or follow the process you've got going there. So I think that's important there. And the other thing too, something I picked up last year from a trading podcast was to review all the missed trades. I thought it was really interesting when I sort of heard that. I thought this guy talking about reviewing all the trades you missed, so all the trades you didn't take and you should have taken, So you could pick two ways of doing that is you look at the biggest movers for the week or for the last fortnight or the last month and go, okay, why didn't I see these ones? Why didn't I get into those? So I had to look at those trades, kind of review those. Or the other thing too is actually looking at, like for me, I sort of identified, maybe I had like a watch list of around sort of 10 or 20 stocks on my weekly list, and there was a few that I didn't take this week. And so I've printed them all off. I've, where the trigger was, and I've written a note about what setup it was. And I've tried to review those, the first few days after even though I've missed them, tried to look at, okay, well, that was a good setup there. Why did I take that trade? And go through. I mean, sometimes you don't have capital, so it might be a capital issue, so you can't overcome that, but there's probably a couple trades there. So, I mean, I can tell you this week here, I've gone the 5 days without making, I've only made 2 mistakes on the same day, which is the only mistake I've made the last 3 weeks. So, but if you're not reviewing that, I let something gap through my stop and I didn't stop it out straight away. I thought, no, I might recover a little bit, and didn't really cover much at all. It sort of faded. So lesson won't get out straight away. And the second one was that I ended up taking a trade off. I thought, I think the market's a bit weak here. I think I should just reduce my risk a little bit. So I overrode my system, reduced my posse, which was the wrong thing. It took off, so I had a good setup, took it off there. But that's the only mistake that I've made in the last 3 weeks is, and I made 2 of them on the same day, trying to override my system. So it's a good reminder for me is that, okay, well, I've built a good trading plan here. I've got a good process. It was just a reminder that as to why that process is in place. It just reminded me that don't try and override the system. So, you've got to be reviewing those things constantly there as well. So I think, so I think importantly, if you want to get a little bit of practice there, I think the review should be twofold. The first few days after the trigger, just reviewing there, and then look at it 3 or 4 weeks down the path as well, just to sort of see what was possible. If you don't know what's possible, then you don't know how well you'd actually traded that trade as well. And that might open your mind to greater returns and greater improvement on how you can actually trade. Because when we're looking at a chart, we're only just seeing what's in front of us here. We don't know, and if we're trading top right, our brain's not allowing us to sort of visualize that chart could, potentially double again. We don't know that. So our brains are locked into that sort of the four squares or the four corners there. We don't allow ourselves to see what's possible there. Whereas, if you're reviewing it 3 or 4 weeks down the track there, and it's gone up another 20-30%, that potentially wasn't, in your mindset 3 weeks ago, but that setup, some good setup with the leading stock, tightened up, broke out, volumes, So you don't really know what's ahead here. So that's the thing with a good system, is that you're gonna take some into heat, take some off, backstop yourself for break even, and then let the market do the rest.
Well, I know you talked about your reviewing your setups, specifically in this, as you said, your sort of digital library of all the setups. And as that's grown over time, I noticed that you've noted that your confidence in those setups has increased, and your confidence to rely on the system that you've created and have the conviction and the ability to stick to it has increased the more that you have confidence in the system. And the more confidence you have has come from the more reviewing you've done to know that, well, actually, these setups really do deliver. So would you say that's sort of a good feedback loop and a positive cycle that you have that's improved your trading?
Yeah, I mean, kind of one of the subsets of that, Chris, is that one of the trades that I thought was, I thought was a really good trade, but I just don't see this setup very often. So I might only get maybe one setup, maybe one or two a month at best. But because now I sort of reviewed that setup and I've looked at it in detail, I've actually started to notice it coming up a lot more, because my brain's actually seeing it a lot more because I'm now looking for it. So as a result of that analysis and the homework, I'm actually seeing that that setup and trade come up a lot more. So when I do see it, I can trade with confidence. There's certain things you're looking for. You're looking for it to tick 5 or 6 boxes. All those are ticked. It's it's met all the criteria. It sounds funny, but if your criteria is already locked in and it meets that criteria, it's telling you have to, it's 6 out of 6, you're going to take the trade. So it almost forces you into it, your daily analysis as well. So, I think that's kind of handy.
I think it definitely is. It's been great for your trading and understanding the different setups that happen with the momentum within the market and how to trade them best. So that's another gem that you've shared with us. And we really do thank you for taking the time to really understand it yourself and then deliver it back to us. And those who've watched to this point, definitely do like the video and comment below whether this has helped you in your trading and maybe other aspects you'd like to explore in a similar vein. To that end, we say thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.